Bundy and Clark had a strong sadomasochistic relationship. Clark often brought sex workers to their apartment for threesomes. Clark showed interest in an 11-year-old neighbor. Bundy helped get the girl to pose for pornographic photographs. Clark moved from pedophilia to murder quickly. He talked about wanting to kill a girl during sex. He convinced Bundy to buy 2 pistols for him. He wanted to fulfill his fantasy of killing a woman during sex and feeling her contractions as she died. In 1980, Bundy and Clark are thought to have killed at least 7 people. On January 26, 1980, at about 1 p.m., 2 victims' partial remains were found in Los Angeles County, California. They were located in a riverbed near Magic Mountain Parkway, west of the Old Road, and south of the Valencia sewage treatment plant. Both were shot to death and are known as the Valencia Jane Does. On June 30, 1980, snake hunters found a woman's mummified body. They were near the Golden State Freeway in Silma, San Fernando Valley. Marnette Carey Comer is a 17-year-old runaway from Sacramento. The young woman was last seen alive on June 1st. She had been dead for at least 3 weeks when she was found. On June 11, 1980, stepsisters Gina Moreno, 15, and Cynthia Lee Chandler, 16, disappeared from Huntington Beach while trying to meet friends. They were discovered the next morning by the Ventura Freeway near Griffith Park in Los Angeles. Each had a gunshot wound to the side of the head. Clark came home and told Bundy about the 2 teenagers he had killed after picking them up on the Sunset Strip. He told them to do something to him. Then he shot them both in the head. After that, he took them to a garage and violated their bodies. Bundy called the police. He said he knew about the murders, but would not give any hints about Clark's identity. Clark told Bundy that he would take the blame if they got caught. He hoped she would be set free. On June 24, 1980, Clark killed 2 sex workers. They were 24-year-old Karen Lee Jones and 20-year-old Exie LaFaye Wilson. Jones was found that day behind a steakhouse in Burbank, California. He was murdered by a single gunshot to the head. Police were called to Studio City. They found the headless body of Wilson. Pedestrians discovered it. Clark tricked Jones and Wilson into his car. He shot them and left their bodies in view. He also took off Wilson's head. Clark brought the head home and put it in the fridge. Bundy saw it and put makeup on it. Then Clark used it again for another act of necrophilia. She remembered, "We had a lot of fun with her. I was putting makeup on her like a Barbie." On June 27th, the couple placed the cleaned head in a wooden box and left it in a Hollywood alley. On August 5th, 1980, Bundy went to a country music show. The performer was John Robert Murray. He was 45 years old and from Australia. He was her former apartment manager and lover. After the show, Bundy talked to Murray. She was drunk and discussed what she and Clark were doing. Murray was worried and suggested he could inform the police. Bundy tricked Murray into his van for sex. Once they were inside, she shot him, stabbed him, and cut off his head. Bundy left clues. He left shell casings in the van. 2 days later, Bundy gave in to pressure and told her co-workers that she had killed Murray. They called the police. She confessed to the crimes she committed with Clark. Murray's head was missing. Clark is thought to have killed a young person. This youth was found on August 26, 1980, in Newhall, California. A maintenance worker discovered the body near 2 water towers while checking a bad smell. The remains were disarticulated. The female was killed by a single .25 bullet to her skull. She was found wearing a red sweatshirt. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reconstructed her face to help identify her. Her remains were unrecognizable because of skeletonization. Bundy told police that Clark said this victim was a prostitute from Hollywood. She said he shot the woman in the back of the head while they were in his car during a sexual act. After she died, she was taken to Newhall. She was raped after her death. She is called Newhall Jane Doe, or Jane Doe, 18. A woman was reportedly killed by Clark after a sexual encounter. Bundy claimed he dumped her body in Tuna Canyon while driving past the area in late July 1980. She was shot in the left side of her forehead. Her clothing was taken off, and put around her hips. The woman was not clearly called a prostitute. A passerby found a woman's partially mummified skeleton at the base of a hill on August 28, 1980, in Malibu, California. Clark said he was not involved. He gave an alibi that showed he was far away from the scene when the victim was killed. The jury decided he was responsible. Kathy, or Jane Doe 28, was a woman. Her remains were found on March 2, 1981, in Green Valley, California. They found only the skull, mandible, femur, some ribs, and vertebrae. She was shot in the head. 12. She was said to be a sex worker. She was killed in late July 1980 during a sexual act. Clark said Bundy was the shooter. She told him to drive to Green Valley. There she took off the body's clothes and got rid of it. Clark said that Bundy touched the victim's body during the journey. During the trial, documents about this victim were lost. The evidence was called irrelevant. Clark and Bundy were not charged with the murder. Many believe they were both responsible. Jeffrey Dahmer committed some of the most disturbing crimes in modern American history. One of his victims, 14-year-old Konerak Sinthasomphone, managed to escape Dahmer's apartment after Dahmer had drilled a hole in his skull and injected hydrochloric acid. Disoriented, bleeding, and naked, Konerak was found wandering the streets by concerned neighbors, who quickly called 911. When police officers John Balkazak and Joseph Gabrish arrived, Dahmer was able to convince them that Konerak was his 19-year-old lover who had simply gotten drunk after a quarrel. Despite protests from bystanders and fire department responders urging medical attention, the officers let Dahmer take the boy back inside, where he was later murdered. The officers were fired for their mishandling of the situation, but were later reinstated with back pay. Balkazak even went on to serve as president of the Milwaukee Police Association. Inside Dahmer's apartment, he kept body parts in jars and human remains in his fridge. His neighbor, Glenda Cleveland, had reported the smell and suspicious activity to the police several times, even saying she saw men enter and never come out. But her warnings were dismissed, likely influenced by racism and her position as a black woman trying to report a white man. Similarly, notorious serial killer Ted Bundy was repeatedly given the benefit of the doubt by law enforcement. He was once pulled over by Highway Patrol while there was an active warrant for his arrest, but because he was calm, polite, and cooperative, he was let go. In another incident, Bundy was held in Utah but left unattended in a room, allowing him to escape through a window. He went on to murder several more young women in Florida as a result of this lapse in security. Both Dahmer and Bundy exploited police bias and systemic failures. Dahmer through a mix of racial privilege and homophobia, weaponized by law enforcement, and Bundy through charm and manipulation that masked his brutality. In both cases, innocent lives were lost due to opportunities the justice system repeatedly gave to monsters. On April 20th, 1973, Kemper was awakened by his mother, Clarnell Strandberg, coming home from a party. While sitting in her bed reading a book, she noticed Kemper enter her room and said to him, "I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now." Kemper replied, "No, good night." He waited for her to fall asleep. Then he snuck back into her room to bludgeon her with a claw hammer and slit her throat with a penknife. Kemper then beheaded her and humiliated her corpse, as stated in a 1984 interview. Kemper stated that he put her head on a shelf and screamed at it for an hour, threw darts at it, and ultimately smashed her face in. He also cut out her tongue and larynx and put them in the garbage disposal. However, the garbage disposal could not break down the tough vocal cords and ejected the tissue back into the sink. That seemed appropriate, as much as she'd bitched and screamed and yelled at me over so many years, Kemper later said. Dean Call killed teenage boys in the Houston area in the early 70s. He was known as the Candyman because his parents owned a candy store. He recruited two teenagers named David Brooks and Elmer Wayne Henley to help him procure his victims. Usually they'd spot kids walking down the street, riding their bikes or hitchhiking, and lure them in with the promise of beer and weed. When they got to the house, Call would overpower them and tie them to a torture board where he would assault, rape, torture, and finally kill them. Often he would keep them alive for days. Death usually occurred by strangulation or a .22 gunshot to the head. Torture at times would be prolonged physical abuse, genital mutilation, sticking glass rods in their penises and smashing them. On one occasion he had 2 victims, so he freed one arm each and told them whoever beats the other one to death gets to live. Then he would sit back and watch them. He was killed by Henley when he made plans to kill 2 of Henley's friends. Call had already killed several of Henley's friends in the past, and Henley didn't want any more to die, so he shot him. Then he called the police and told them everything. The death toll was a minimum of 28 victims. John Wayne Gacy got some of his ideas from Call. I remember hearing about it on a Monday morning, the kind of news that just hangs in the air a little too long. 3 girls, Paytine, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker, didn't come back from visiting their dad. They were just supposed to spend the weekend. It was one of those things where no one really expects anything to go wrong. Then they didn't show up. They found his truck first, out near Rock Island Campground. It wasn't crashed or hidden, just parked, like he left it there on purpose. Inside were a bunch of his personal things, clothes, a wallet, some kids' toys, like he didn't need any of it anymore. There was also a dog, still alive, just sitting there like it had been waiting a long time for someone to come back. The girls were nearby, all 3, not buried, not hidden, just left. The report said they were suffocated, but nobody talks about what that means when it comes to kids. They were 9, 8, and 5. I can't stop thinking about the way that must have looked. The police said they found blood. Some of it belonged to a man. Some of it wasn't human. They didn't explain that part, just that more tests were being done. Fingerprints, DNA, the usual stuff. But they wouldn't say what else they found. People started asking questions and then just stopped. Travis Decker, the father, is still missing. The story was everywhere for a while. His height, his hair color, his military background. People were told not to approach him, that he could be dangerous. Some think he's hiding in the mountains. Others say he never left the area. There are always rumors. A truck spotted in the woods. A campsite found abandoned. Someone claimed they saw him walking alone at dusk near the river. No one ever confirms anything. A few nights ago, someone local posted about hearing a little girl crying just past the tree line behind their house. Said they went out with a flashlight, calling, but no one was there. Just the dog. Same description, same eyes, sitting dead still in the dark. I don't know what happened out there, but I don't think it's over.